My name's Amy, and I live in the Washington, D.C. region, and I have been with Gap Community since before it was Gap Community. I did the Awaken training when I was 17 years old. I am now 40, and I work for Gap as one of our trainers, and I became a trainer with Gap when I was 22. So going on 18 years now. So if you have questions about Gap, I'm definitely willing to answer them. So any ministry questions, happy to do that. Giving you all an overview of the call tonight so you know what to expect. I'll give you a little brief history of Gap. We'll talk definitely about Awaken, what you can expect. I have a small exercise for you. I'm going to make some time for Leandra and VNA to share their specific experiences, go over the logistics. And Leandra, what did you promise them? When did you promise them we would be done?
8 o'clock, or 1 hour.
1 hour, beautiful. Okay, we can do it. Let's see, I am married. My husband and I have been married for 16 and a half years. We have 2 children. My daughter's 13, my son is 11, and we love this ministry. So it is a joy to get to be on the call with you. So I just want to say thank you up front for making time tonight to come and be here and listen. I know you could be doing whatever you would do on a Tuesday night, but instead you're on a phone call. So thank you for coming. I am committed to making this valuable and informative for you. And at the very end, I'll give you all my contact information. So if you have any other questions or things you just didn't want to ask in a public space, you can call me or email me anything. So a little bit about Gap. We were founded in 1998, and we started as a youth ministry, which is how when I was 17 years old, I started attending these trainings as a youth, and it radically changed my view of the world and who I was and what I was created for. I loved it. I served on teams, and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be one of those trainer people, and here we are, all grown up. And around 7 years ago, Gap, we started doing adult training. So many of us that are trainers with Gap, myself and Jean Marie Jobs, she is the founder and president of Gap. She is a pastor in Northern California at Santa Rosa Christian Church, and she's the founder of Gap. She and myself, we decided, hey, let's not just train kiddos, teens, let's also train families. So the 2 of us decided that at that time we would start expanding our work out and doing adult training. So we had both been trainers with another organization, and that organization folded. And so we were given all of the training materials and allowed to expand out to adults. So we've been doing Awaken trainings for coming up about 8 years now. So we've got some history there. And we are ministry. So foundation is biblically based, and all of the work that we do is experiential. So the way I like to think about it is we use the Bible as a foundation for what we believe and teach from, and then we also believe that God is creating experiences in the world with human beings and interacting with us all the time. So there's also real life experiences happening too. They're also good to look at. So lots of people attend these trainings of all religious backgrounds, people who have no religious background, and everybody is welcome. There's no pressure. You just come, and the trainings are really about yourself, your vision, your leadership, and what matters to you. So I share that because our goal is not to convert people, but it's really just to stand for people to come alive in what they're called to in their life. So all the training, the 4 days of Awaken, are really about you, your impact, and what you are creating in this world. That's a very big, big, big picture. We're going to deep dive into Awaken for a little while. And then I definitely want to pause and make sure I answer questions. And then we'll do a little exercise. So Big picture of Awaken, if you could chunk it into big, broad categories, Awaken is made up of 4 things. There are what we call mini lecturettes. They're like 20, 30 minutes around a topic. For example, keeping your word, trust. What are you communicating with people? So we call them lecturettes because they're more of a discussion with the whole group. We might do some charts about it. People may share different facets of their life, but we call them lecturettes because they're small. There's no one lecturing at you for hours on end. That just lecturette probably comprises about 20% of the training. We have experiential exercises. Those comprise about 60% of the training. So an experiential exercise is very, very simple. Has everyone on the phone ridden a bike? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes.
Yeah. That's an experiential exercise. Yes. You don't know what you're doing. You get on this contraption and you're like, don't let me die. I just got to make it. That's a bit like experiential learning. So we create an exercise and everybody goes through it. And in the process of going through it, you get to see things about your character, your life, your vision, what matters to you, and also things that you may want to shift or change. So experiential learning is a huge part of the training. So like I said before, it makes up about 60%. There's homework every night. I'm going to take, that's probably 5% of the training. You have a 1-pager at night. That's what you do. The other pieces of the training, I kind of lump into small groups and or like trios, like talking with 2 other people. So we'll just say interactions, like interactions with other participants. And that makes up the remainder of the training. It's another like 15% of the training. So a lot of your time is spent with the people in your training. Awaken maxes out at 50 people, so it's not a ton of people. The average training size is around 32. So you're in a group. Within that group, you'll have 1 or 2 other people that you get to choose and you'll pair up with, and they're kind of like your support system for the 4 days. And you get to pick them. They're not picked for you. You pick them. And we call them your buddies. There's people you connect with, hang out with, and support during the time. So that is big picture, like we're engaging in these 4 things for 4 days. So logistically, deep dive into the actual what is happening for these 4 days. I'm going to give you an overview. Everything I'm telling you is on the website. So I'm not telling you anything that you can't go out and find for yourself. If you go to gapcommunity.com and you click under Awaken Training, you will see everything I am saying to you right now. So it's a little bit redundant, and I know sometimes it's nice to actually hear it talked about. So deep dive, you can go under the syllabus on the Gap Community website, and it's like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and it's all chunked out for you. So if you are an information person and you're like, I love information, I want to know all the things, it's all on the website. So day 1, a lot of orientation. So as I said before, this training is specifically designed for you to practice living your gift and who you are for 4 days. So making a difference with people, making an impact on people, coming alive, and also looking at, okay, where am I not alive? Where am I not making a difference? And so in order to have that happen in 4 days, we spend pretty much the whole morning of day 1 as trainers just getting to know you, getting to know who's in the room, what matters to you, what am I coaching you on for 4 days? Why have you come here? Why did you spend the money and take the time? Why is this important to you? And that's pretty much the whole morning of day 1. You could X out like 3 hours just on that. We have a series of ground rules that we agree to together. They're super simple. They're like, hey, let's keep everything in this room confidential. Let's wear a name tag so people know who we are. Let's be on time. Very, very simple ground rules, but we all agree to them. So then there's some trust in the room because we have a set of promises. We take lunch breaks. I probably will forget to say this. There is a lunch and a dinner break every day. And, of course, you can take breaks as you need them throughout the day. You are free to govern your life. So there'll be some lunch break after that. We come back from lunch, and that's the time where you pick these buddy people I told you about. So we'll spend some time talking about it, like, hey, what makes for a good partner? Who would you like to pick? What would challenge you? Who would challenge you? So that's a majority of the afternoon. We do an introduction exercise. So you'll have a chance to introduce yourselves to each other. And then there's a dinner break. And then we talk. The whole evening of the first day is around feedback. So it's just an opportunity for you to receive feedback from other people and also to give people feedback. So part of the Awaken training is looking at your impact, like how am I actually impacting the people that I'm with? And so feedback offers a great opportunity to really assess, am I giving my gift the way I want to give it? Is there things that are missing? So that's the evening, then you have homework, and we go home, go to bed. So that's day 1. Day 2, come back in, have a conversation. How's everyone doing? How was your homework? How was your evening? Where are you at? So as trainers, just speaking for myself, I spend a lot of time just feeling out my participants, finding out where they're at, how can I care for them that day, what matters to them, where's their headspace. That's a lot in the morning, is just kind of feeling that out. We talk about the homework because it's important. You give your time to it, and you process your feelings and thoughts and dreams. And not dreams like laying down sleeping dreams, but dreams, I mean like dreams for your life, like my legacy. What do I long for? That's what I mean when I say dreams. And then after some discussion, debriefing, conversation, we have a confession exercise where you just spend some time privately. It's not done publicly. You do it privately. You spend some time confessing. Then there's breaks in there. I didn't mention that, but of course there's a lunch break. There's a dinner break. The evening of the second day, we do an exercise where I said before, an experiential exercise around life. And what am I actually living for? What would happen to the people I love if I died? What's my legacy? When I wake up tomorrow morning, who's this person I long to be? So there's all that evening is around these topics of like, what am I standing for? What matters to me? What are my dreams? Who am I for the people I love? And then who are they for me? So it's this whole exercise around that. And then your homework is like a debrief of that. So then day 3, when we come together, we have a whole, again, kind of the same pattern, if you can hear the pattern. The morning of day 3 is a debrief. Like, well, okay, how are we doing? Where are we at? What opened up for you? What are you experiencing? Where's your headspace at? What's your vision today? So continuing on from the night before, debriefing what came up for people. And then we do an exercise on, it's very simple. We just call it giving and taking. It's just like, how often in my life am I living generously? And then where am I living like stingy? Where am I withholding my gifts or myself, or I have bitterness or unforgiveness? So it's like a way to test yourself and look at, wow, how am I being with people? And then there's lunch and dinner in there. I didn't say that. And then that night we do an exercise on forgiveness, where you look at different relationships in your life where you may be stuck or holding on to things from the past, or they might be hindering you in some way. And it's an opportunity for release and kind of working through like, wow, why am I hung up on this? Why is this haunting me? Where am I stuck in this? And then that's the end of that night. There's homework again. Day 4, same thing. Come back in. There's a time of debriefing. And the way we debrief is people have an opportunity to tell their life story. And so we do an exercise called Tell Your Story. It's awesome. And you get to tell the story of your life multiple different ways. And we talk about what does it mean to write your own story and live your story? What is the story you're living? How would you like to frame your story? So it's kind of like the power of storytelling. If you're familiar with Brene Brown's work, this comes out in that same vein. And I would say 65% of day 4 is celebration, worship, if that is something you enjoy, that's part of it. Gratitude, like thanking one another. So there's like time spent like cherishing one another, thanking each other for the gifts they've been, encouragement, blessing. It's all those things. Like when you've really like struggled through something together, you want a day where you're like, whew, we did it. Okay, let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy like the fruit of our labor together. So there is a substantial part of day 4 just dedicated to celebration and encouragement and gratitude and appreciation of each other and thankfulness. So sort of cap the whole training off that way. And then we go home. And that's the end. So I know that was like very fast that I went through that. And just like I said, everything I just said is also on the website. So you can go there and you can see everything I just talked about. I just want to pause and ask, are there any questions? Is there something someone was like, yeah, I kind of want to know more about this? I'm just going to pause and stop talking for a second. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, this is Keith. So what just reading between the lines, it kind of sounds like a 12-step. Maybe watered down just a little bit, but what makes it different than that type of format?
Yeah, so bear this in mind. I myself have not gone through 12 steps. So all I know about it is because of friends that have done it and being an outsider. So let me just put that up front. So I can't speak to it like...
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt. I thought you were pausing. I have been through this. This is Kyle. I have done 12-step programs and done this. And the biggest difference, I can say this is nothing like a 12-step program. The biggest difference is that you have a coach in the room who's coaching you through the whole thing, professional. Amy, you can talk about the caliber of the coaches with GAP, but they're coaching you like in a 12-step group. There's no crosstalk. You're not being guided. You're just kind of sharing your own feelings the whole time. And obviously, that can be a year or ongoing. And this is in 4 days. There's much more, I think, structured small group time. It could be one-on-one, or it could be a small group of like 4. There's none of that in a small group. In a step group, you're going. If you form friendships in a step group, you're doing that on your own. There's no exercises. In my experience, in step studies, there may be a workbook. There's not really a workbook in the GAP thing. There's some homework, but it's not like that. In my experience, that was a big part of the step study when I got into small groups. So I honestly love both forms of development or transformation. I'm not dismissing step studies at all, but this is nothing like that.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a good answer. I've got 25 years of sobriety, so
great.
Have done some of that before and kind of seem just a little bit similar, but not exactly the same. So that's why I was kind of comparing the two. That's all. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll add a couple things to what Kyle shared as well. One is that in our particular work, we are really challenging people and asking people to look at what they don't know that they don't know, which I know is a very funny thing to say. The first time I heard it, I was like, huh? So the experiential exercises are designed to flesh up things about yourself that you have never seen or thought about before. So they're not known quantities. These are not things that you've ruminated on or you've thought about or you already know about yourself. You're not handling something you're familiar with. The exercises are designed to illuminate parts of your life, your character, your thinking, and your feeling that are unknown to you. And so that's part of the value of coming to Awaken, is to get in touch with your blind spots in ways that you haven't been in touch with them before. I find it personally very rare that people intentionally spend a part of their life to figure out where they're blind and what they're blind to. Most of the time, we get up, we go to work, we come home, we have our dinner, hang with our families, have our weekends, get up, go to work, come home, hang with our families. So it's a very intentional act to take these 4 days out. And I will not kid you, not you or anybody on the phone, but the Awaken training is not for everyone. It's a press, like a hard press on your character, and an awesome opportunity to come alive in parts of your life where you haven't been before. And to have that will require you to give and be things you may never have given or been before. So it's challenging. Like, I'll be straight with you. It's very challenging. And it's intentionally designed that way because this is the other differentiator between 12-Step and Awaken, is that as a trainer, I am fully expecting that in 4 days, you are completely transformed. Not slightly different, a little bit better, more hopeful, or having a little bit more. I am standing with you that in 4 days you have a brand new life that you've never had before. So
I think it's worth a try. I just need to, find the time to do it. From what Leandra shared with me today was quite enlightening, and I think between the training and for me being a Christian, letting the Spirit try to transform you every single day would be a good thing. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it would be good.
Well, thank you, first of all, for your question. I appreciate it, and it allowed for great clarification. Does anybody else have a question? While we're paused for a sec. Okay. Leandra, would you please take the next couple of minutes and share something specific from the training that was transformative for you?
Yes.
Thank you.
For me, the training revealed some of the parts that I was missing with my friends and with people that I wanted to be in love with. And I was very judgmental a lot, and I expected people to behave in a certain way, a manner, and if they didn't, I would ignore them. So one of the relationships that I got to, I had a really good friend, and I always experienced her as always being late or missing out on, in this case, I was always racing. I used to run a lot of races, and after going to training, I realized that anytime she would miss a race or be late or be sick or whatever, I would just not go to the next race with her. And this is a small thing, but I just would be like, no, I can't make it. Like, I never told her, like, hey, I'm not going to this because you've missed all these races with me. So it was a very passive-aggressive behavior. But, of course, before the training, I didn't see it that way. I felt very justified in my behavior, and this was showing up all over the place, not in this particular relationship. I bring it up because there's a lot of girls on here, and we tend to be a little passive-aggressive in some of our female relationships. And so I was like, wow, that's really terrible of what I was doing. So I finally, one of the things of Awaken, when you go through the training, you learn to receive and give feedback. And feedback is actually a gift. It's a breath of life to a relationship. And the whole time, anytime I had an issue or something, I would just withhold and hope that things would get better, right? I was like, maybe she'll make it to the next race. Maybe she'll show up, whatever. But never saying anything. And then that's just not showing up on when she needed me. So finally, I had this conversation with her, and I said, hey, I really love our relationship. I really love you. You're like one of my best friends. I've learned so much from you. But when these things occur, when in this case it was races or even going to events around D.C., I was like, I noticed you don't show up if someone else is not showing up, and this is how it's impacting me. And the conversation that came out of it was just so like, I had no idea. You're one of my best friends. I'm so sorry. I will do better. And it wasn't perfect going forward, but what was interesting was the level of communication that happened afterward, like going forward in our relationship, was any time like that there was something going to happen where she couldn't make it or I couldn't make it. It was easy to be like, hey, there's ice on the road. Like the best one was like, normally if there was ice on the road, she wouldn't drive. She was just like, I'm not going. So I said, well, I have the car that can drive like on the snow. I can meet you. And she's like, okay, let's do it. Let's still hang out. So even though these are tiny things, it's the tiny things that kind of just made our relationship blossom into what it is today. And that's just one relationship, but I did that with so many other relationships across like my friendships and with my family that, you know, just doing it one at a time over time, it's just been amazing. And just showing that I'm not a victim to other people, that I have a contribution and I can add and level up our relationship in more ways than I had ever thought possible.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For all of the folks on the call, I think I hope I got everybody before, but if I didn't, grab your journal, grab your notebook, grab your pen, pencil, whatever you have. We are going to do a quick exercise together. My preference is to give you I know it's such a strange forum to be on a conference call together. I wish we were in a room together. But this is what we have. So, if you would do me a favor, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. I'm going to give you, I'll say like 45 seconds a question, and this is what I'm going to ask you to do. So once I give you the question, I'm going to say start, and I just want you to journal whatever comes out of your mind. Like, don't edit it, don't censor it. You're not going to be reading it out loud. Let me just put the disclaimer out there. I just want you to write down the first thing that comes to mind. You're the only one reading it, so be honest. Just plop it down on your page, and be disciplined to write for the full 45 seconds. So write down everything that comes out. And then there are only 3 questions, so don't worry. This won't go on and on and on. And it's just for you. So don't worry about what you write. It's just for you. All right. Question number 1. The risk I know is next for me. The risk that I know is next for me. Begin. 45 seconds. Whatever comes to mind. And it can be more than one risk. Just whatever comes to mind. You have 10 more seconds. Get down 1 or 2 more thoughts. Okay, time. Number 2. One dream that keeps coming back up. Keeps coming back. One dream that keeps coming back. 45 seconds. Write down whatever comes to mind. You have about 10 more seconds. 10 more seconds. Okay. Last one. So similar to the dream, one regret that keeps coming back up. One regret that keeps coming back up. got about 10 more seconds. About 10 more seconds. Okay, time. So I just want to have a little bit of open sharing. Now let me put some things out there. You can share as much or as little as you want. You can share from one question or another question. You don't have to share from all three. You can share a general thought. You can share a specific thought. Totally up to you. But who would like to share something that they thought of, something that occurred to them? Not all at once, because I'll be crazy. Even though we're on the phone.
I can share for number 3.
Awesome.
So I put one regret that keeps coming up is I tend to, similar to your story actually from earlier, I tend to judge, and then later I reflect and want to be more curious in that moment. So I want to apply all my judgments to a situation when I'm in it, and then after the situation I'll regret the thoughts that I allowed to live there and whatever story I made up, as opposed to asking for feedback, being more curious in that moment about where the other person was at.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about what your judgment is for in that moment? Like why it feels so appealing in that moment?
I am sure it has something to do with me wanting to look good, feel good, or be right.
Maybe. Does one of those seem more true than another?
I think being right or being in control of, well, that person must be what I believe them to be because that's what fits in whatever picture I've made up about them. So I'm going, well, obviously I'm correct about that story because I could not be wrong about that story. That's what I believe. But if you look at it with a more open mind afterwards, again, that's why I feel that it's a regret. It's much different.
It's interesting when you said that because my first thought was, I wonder what her judgment is protecting her from in that moment. Like, why?
What about me?
Well, if we weren't going to judge your judgment, like if I was just going to be curious about it, I wonder what it's designed for, right? Like, being right, okay, cool. That's like 31 flavors of ice cream. Everybody loves it. I'm more curious about, like, wow, this is an interesting choice that you've identified that you make often, it sounds like. And so I'm wondering what it's actually doing for you in the moment. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it's like it's not requiring me to be in the moment almost. Like I've got this preconceived notion and therefore I don't have to be present in the moment. I don't have to be curious about the moment. I don't have to take any feedback that made me negative.
Mm-hmm. Are there, if you were to look at it more closely, not that you have to answer this, are there specific moments where it happens more often? Like specific moments you don't want to be in?
That's something to sit with.
Yeah, it's like I wonder if you could hold it like gently instead of judgmentally. If you could hold your judgment gently and go, wow, what if this was happening actually in specific moments? Where am I trying to avoid? Like which ones am I most judgmental in?
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Way to go first. I appreciate it. Someone else. What would you like to share? You can share anything you want around any of those questions. I have one for number 2. Okay. And it's basically doing more volunteering for like animal shelters or something in that area. Oh, cool. Is that something you've done in the past, or it's like that's just a thing you've always wanted to do? That's something that I've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Do you know what stops you or what gets in the way of you actually accomplishing it? Just time. Finding the time. Huh. And so what gets your time instead of your dreams?
Work.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, of course, family and stuff. So,
of course.
You have your family. And
yes. And in that equation, work and family, is there a place where you make time for your dreams?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it's like we do have like an animal shelter that is here, and I know that like I do like a lot of where I give donations and stuff like that anytime I possibly can. But I would like to actually give more time, like to help them out and help the animals out.
Have you ever explored how much time would actually be required?
I did once, and then I just didn't follow up on it.
Because what stopped you from following up?
Work and life and all that.
Oh. So you found yourself in a cycle, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm in a cycle.
Yeah. I long for something, but then I'm over here doing these things.
Right.
I hear you. So I guess then the next question would be, is it worth it? Is this something that you would really like to get committed to exploring?
Yeah, I think I would feel fulfilled.
Yeah. So you explored it once. How long ago was that?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Wow. This has been my covering in your orbit for a while here.
Yeah.
Huh. So what would you have to give up in your life, or what do you make up that you'd have to give up in order to have this dream of working at the animal shelter at some point? What do you imagine it's going to cost you? Yeah.
That's a good question. I'd have to really think about that one.
Okay. Would you be willing to ponder?
Yeah.
What am I willing to give up to have this dream?
Mhm.
So I have another thought for you too.
Mhm.
Are you also willing to not be a slave to time? Can you hear that in your conversation? Like there's no time?
Yeah.
Like it's really like time has told me that I don't get very much of it, and there's not enough for me or my dreams or my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder what it would look like if you're like, no, I own my time. I own my day.
Yeah, that would be different, I think.
It could be. It's a possibility.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh, I'm so excited for the animals. Are you connected to VNA or Leandra? Or Kyle? Who are you
I'm connected to VNA.
Perfect. Will you check in with her in a week about where you're at with this dream?
Mhm.
So by next Tuesday.
Okay, next Tuesday.
Sweet.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience that my wife kind of circled around that dream for a long time, and I finally said, just please do it. And it was a big pain in the butt, but we've probably done it 5 or 6, 7 times since then and never regretted it. So you just fill your time with that instead of Netflix or other things. But you're no more busy than you were before. It's just different busy.
Yeah.
And not that I'm trying to, this is Yvonne, I'm not trying to sell you on it, but I've been doing animal rescue for about 10 or so years, and I can tell you that if you have even 15 minutes a week, it can be put to use. So Leandra has the information. I'm sure she'll put you in contact with you if you really want to do it.
You look at all these resources. This is awesome. See, now that's like such a good testimony to speaking your dream into a community and seeing what resources begin to appear. That's awesome. I love it. Someone else. Thank you for sharing, too, by the way.
Thank you.
else? What came up? What did you notice? Thoughts? Combos?
Well, I have something, but I want to give any of our guests the chance to speak. So, if you think you want to, please do.
Well, you're here too.
Yeah. Okay. Opportunities pass, right? So on number 2, I have this idea that I came up with last winter, and it's a pretty great idea. Like, if I could sell it to it, and I love ideas, but if I could sell it to a TV network, I'm pretty sure I'd be set for life. But I don't know how, and I know that it could be, just taken, and somebody could go run it, and I don't know how to protect, and the people that I have talked to about protecting the intellectual property say that you really can't protect an idea like that unless you were to go out and produce it for, several tens of thousands of dollars, even for a cheap version. But it would change. I mean, this would be really cool, and it keeps coming back to me. So part of why I don't do it is working time. Part of it is just not knowing how to do it, and part of me just wants to say, fine, if they steal it, at least it would get done, and it's a cool idea, and I think the world would be more fun for having it. But and I hadn't really thought about it a lot in the last couple months, but that was what came up when you asked the question.
Awesome. I have a friend, and he's a producer, and he's done Awaken with his wife, and they are always looking for ideas, and they are honorable people, and they're amazing.
Okay.
And he produces tons of television and just finished his movie, so he's looking for new projects.
Well, how fortuitous. Okay, and then the number 1 was leaving my job, which BNA can tell you I'm complaining about all the time. And then I noticed on Facebook or LinkedIn or something that you're a recruiter.
I am.
Too funny. Yeah, I just now thought of that. That's funny. You're like the 3rd recruiter I've come across in the last couple of weeks, and none of them are recruiting in my area, but it's just God saying, hey, look at all these recruiters out there.
I recruit all over the place, so we should talk.
Okay.
Awesome. I'm so excited. Well, if you want to go forward with any of your dreams and take a risk, then I definitely will connect you to the right people.
I love that.
Hey.
That would be awesome.
Thank you for sharing. So I asked these 3 specific questions on this call because in the Awaken training, this is a lot of what you are going to be examining as you go through it. You'll get a chance to look at what actually matters to me. Like when it gets down to it, who and what is most important in my life? What am I willing to risk to have those things, to have relationships the way I want, to have the life that I see? What am I willing to give up? Because nothing is free. I love the example of the animal shelter because we have beautiful dreams. I have them too. And then I don't want to give anything up. I just want to somehow mesh into the world I already am living. So that's part of the training. It's an examination of our lives. And wow, what would I be willing to give or surrender or sacrifice in order to have this thing, which I'm declaring is very important to me. And then also just to address how often in life we have regrets that cycle through, and we don't, this is the way I think about it, is to hold them and honor them in some way and figure out if they can be a resource for our vision. Instead of judging them, rejecting them, trying to push them away, make them go away, wish they hadn't happened, to honor what they're speaking and see how it can be something that fuels our vision instead of binding us or haunting us or sticking us somewhere in the past. So those 3 questions are just really designed to get your mind thinking about the possibilities that lay in the Awaken training. What I want to do is 2 2 more things in our 11 minutes that we have left. The first one is VNA. Would you take the next couple of minutes and please share with the community here your takeaway, something that transformed for you during the Awaken?
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for being on the call and just giving me this time as well to share my experience in the Awaken training 3 years ago. So when I went into that training, I wasn't aware of impact. I had no idea that I had an impact. I was the type of person that would just protect myself, hide in the corner, maybe show up with one person to a place and never speak to anyone but one person. And I learned in this training that how I show up, or how I thought I showed up, didn't really match how I physically showed up, the space I occupied. And that's just been an ongoing, that has not stopped, just noticing how I show up every day. Some days I miss it, some days I don't. But if we're talking about something that really was transformative, something that I could touch, feel, and just here's a living example. On the day of forgiveness, where we get to just confess what we hold, and I wasn't aware that I had unforgiveness. I wasn't aware that I carried bitterness against my brother. I didn't know that my intense dislike of him, hate, if you will go with me on that, was so deep inside of me, and I was so ignorant, so blind, that I didn't even recognize that it separated me from my nephews. I didn't know that my dislike of him from just growing up as siblings was so deep that it was with me as an adult. And when that came out, the change in how I showed up with him was incredible. I could see my brother as, wow, as a human being. I didn't see him as all the negatives. I got to see him as what a great dad and husband, and he's a great friend to his friends. And I was able to see him in his wholeness rather than the lens that I used to carry around, and I only saw him one way, which was just not good. And as a result of forgiving him and forgiving that past and letting it go, I ended up having, and I still have, a great relationship with 2 nephews. Actually it's 3 nephews, but one of them was already a teenager, already grown, but I still had an opportunity with the 2 young nephews. And since 2016, the way it has changed is I can text them, I can go to movies with them, they've spent the night, we play video games. That is something I didn't have before the training. That was something I wasn't even aware that I was missing. And it took being shooken inside and just seeing these things that I just didn't know that were there. And there's been a lot of transformation in my life since, but that right there is a treasure that I carry in my heart. It is something that I will get to have for the rest of my life. My nephews, when they get married, when they have children, man, it's an incredible gift that I was given because I showed up on a training or in a training because I was invited by my sister. And so that is that's my takeaway, my big shiny takeaway from my Awaken. So thank you.
Thank you. In our last couple of minutes here, Leandra and VNA, can you please share the logistics of the training? So date, cost, place.
Yes, I can go ahead. The training is in Plano. It's if you're from the area, it's off 121 and the North Dallas Tollway over by Stonebriar. The dates are Thursday, September 5th, starting at 10 a.m. through Sunday, September 8th, ending at 6:30 p.m. And the cost is $450. Registration ends Tuesday, September 3rd, which is 2 weeks from today.
Awesome. And for anybody who doesn't know, Leandra, you'll send out a follow-up email with a link to the registration to everyone?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect, because that will make it simple. So I promised everybody on the call that at the end, we'll just pause. I'll give you all of my information, and then if you want to ask questions or email, call, text, whatever, I'm open to all of those. Our website is gapcommunity.com. It's super simple. There's a bunch of testimonies on there from other grads from all over the U.S. So if you want to hear a few more testimonies, you want to hear some more about it, or you want to read more about it, it's all under adult trainings, and you just click on Awaken. So there's a ton of information on there, more, if you would like more. My email is Amy, A-M-Y, C as in cat, Maxwell, my name, Amy Sue Maxwell, @gmail.com. You can email me. Leandra has my cell phone. Anyone can call me if you have a question or a thought or something you'd like to know. So I just want to we have 4 minutes left. Are there any other questions, things that I didn't answer, things you're wondering? Well, great. Thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate you coming out on a Tuesday night and spending an hour with me. And Leandra, they will have your phone number, your email. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate. I hope all of you can come to the training. It's amazing. I did it when I was 17. Best experience of my life, apart from my hubby, children, and Jesus. Apart from those things, best experience. Let me put some caveats in there. Apart from those things,
So it's only like 4th place.
Yeah, I said 4th place. That's fine. That's fair.
Okay.
That's like a top rank. It's a top rank.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't speak highly enough. It changed my life. Even as a young person, it's changed my entire future and legacy. And so my hope is that if this sounds like something you're interested in, take a risk. Just do it. So thank you for coming. We're done. 3 minutes early. How you like that? Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Night.